finding that balance, the right magical formula, isn't always that mystical and magical. I'd like to thank the Process Art Discovery audience for joining me today. We're going to have a little chat about pigment and water and enjoying the process and understanding how things can evolve without pressure. I see so often people getting very stressed about their place in their journey with watercolor, and I hate to see that. I like to see people relaxing into this and enjoying the process as much as I do. I think very often we have preconceived notions of, what people maybe have told us in the past, that watercolor is too hard. I know I fell into that for many years and didn't paint because that's what I believed. And it wasn't until I was able to just sort of play around and discover things on my own that I understood that there is for me so much joy in it. And yeah, it's a way for relieving stress for me. And I hope at some point that becomes true for you as well. One of the things that I notice very often when I'm working with students face to face is just they're anxious. They want to create a masterpiece right away, and that's not likely to happen. If it does, yes, that's wonderful. We should celebrate that. But we should also celebrate the moments it takes us to get there. Those moments, those aha moments when you have dipped your brush into your paint for the umpteenth time and suddenly it feels different. You get it. You know what that feels like. You know what that glistening level of glistening on your palette looks like, that it's ready for you. The paints have woken up and they're ready for you to take them onto the page. And so I think if we can relax into it, take some time to play. We did a recent video where we did just that. We played a little bit with watching water as we dropped, or pigment as we dropped it into water droplets on the page. That's such a fun way to go. Some people like to swatch. They like to get their colors and play with them, lay them out on their page, see what they look like with different levels of moisture, different levels of water, and that's ideal. It's one of the ways that you can start to sort of, it's almost like muscle memory. When you've done it so many times, you don't even have to think about how much water's on your brush, how much water you take off your brush, how much water you add to your palette to keep your paints ready to go. I like to call it juicy. They're ready. They're wet. They're glistening. Sometimes there's even little puddles in the palette where the water sits, and that's over the years I've learned, where to dip in my palette with my brush, where the color is going to be thickest and richest, where the puddles are when I want just a tiny bit of color for a little bit of a mark or a highlight, and that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And like I said, or if it does, if for some reason you have that aha moment very early on, celebrate that and use that to your advantage. So, as I mentioned many times before, my little Levinson brush has been just such a workhorse for me. It feels just like Tracy made it for my hand, and I like to think that was sort of a thing that was meant to be. But with this little brush, it has such a beautiful fine point, but it's a synthetic goat hair blend, and it holds so much moisture, and it holds it well, so it's not going to dump off the end of my brush when I'm not expecting it. So a damp brush, and when I'm digging into my palette, and I say digging in, which isn't really what I should say at all, because I'm never digging. I don't ever want to overwork my brush into my palette. My brushes are precious to me, and I don't, I just don't want to overwork them by digging in when I don't have to. So by keeping my palette wet, it gives me that, option to have that. This little brush will, if I dip it into a nice wet color, I can, with one dab, I can pick up enough paint on the tip of that brush to paint for quite a while. If I wanted to paint a larger area, I would use a wider brush. Again, hardly any water on my brush. If I've, for example, if I have wet my page, which we normally do, and some artists wet the back of their page and then wet it again after a few moments and then flatten it down onto a piece of chloroplast or plexiglass or something and then wet the front because they like that moisture to stay on there a lot longer. I'm a quick painter. I've developed that style just out of necessity more than anything. And so I don't need to worry about that so much. But I've got a nice load on my paint brush. I'm just going to add I see I've missed a little bit of a spot there. So with that load on my paintbrush, it's very thick pigment. It's very little moisture, very little water, mostly pigment on my brush. And if I was to just touch it into the water on my page, you can see, I mean, look at the amount of pigment that is still coming off this brush because my palette was wet and juicy, because my brush holds a ton of pigment. The load is just phenomenal. I can continue on and create the basis of a painting with just that one load on my brush. I can even go on and use the side of my brush. Wet on dry. You can see there where the brush is just skimming the surface of the rough paper to give that texture. One dip in, you can see the load of the pigment on the tip of my brush, and it's enough to just allow me to bring in pigment and shape the basis of a painting. Now this, the water and the pigment, this is, you know, how they're going to work together. They flow very, very nicely. This board is actually on a slight tilt. I think there's about 1/4 of an inch rise on the back of it, which I don't normally paint with. I normally paint completely flat. So I would get more pigment flowing up into the moisture at the top of the page. But you can work with what's on your page even. And if you're using a nice soft, it's a dark color, but it also softens very nicely. This is Mayan Dark Blue. You could use Payne's Gray, Payne's Blue Gray. You could even use one of your greens. Let me take a look here and see what... this is a sap green. I didn't wet that one quite as much. Again, I'm just into the center part where there was just not much pigment but a lot of water, and I'll show you how that reacts. So it gives a more washed look, whereas with the other, with the Mayan Dark Blue, the pigment sort of settled in some spots and moved out in others. So it's learning how that feels, how that looks, and what that will do on your page. Learning what your colors will do. How they're going to misty, get that misty look, how they're going to look when you put some in front of the other. I don't know, I think often too we start with too many colors. It's tempting. And I did that at the very beginning as well of my painting journey. Every time I watched a YouTube video, I thought, oh, I need that color. It is so beautiful. And I ended up with dozens and dozens of colors. I knew from the beginning, watching people and other recommendations, that Daniel Smith paints were probably the right fit for me, and I've used them daily since. They are definitely my all-time favorites. But I've also learned that I only need probably 4 of those colors. I use them every day, and the combination of those colors, over time I've learned how to adjust those and mix and match. The Daniel Smith paints for me are exquisite. Many of the pigments are mixed in a tube, so you get different pigments in the same, in the same tube. So, for example, here we have Rose of Ultramarine. So that's quinacridone rose and ultramarine blue mixed together, and you get this beautiful purpley color. So just getting a few of those colors, testing them out, finding what they'll do. So I very seldom mix my colors on the side of my palette. Once in a while, yes, testing that out, or if I'm doing a large wash and I want a mix of something, I sometimes will do that. But most often, I let the colors mix and mingle on the page, because I know from experience, from trial and error and moving through, how that will happen. Because when I've got a certain amount of water on my page, a certain amount of pigment, you put some other pigment beside it, and I know what they'll do, how they're going to react together. So that's sort of where I think you should focus. If you've got time. Now that the new year is starting and we've, sort of turning a new page, starting things afresh, maybe go back to the beginning a little bit. Test some of your favorite colors. Work with just 3 or 4 at a time, and limit yourself to that. Even start maybe with just one color. I've done some of my most popular paintings with just one color, a monochromatic expression of loose and intuitive painting, whereas the one color, allowing it to move and mingle with the water at different levels, adding more water, adding more pigment, it gives you that lovely texture. A couple of different applications, maybe with a hake brush, adding some texture. Find out what that can do for you. Add a different color. Let's try a deep quinacridone deep gold. The quinacridones I've discovered, and if you've been watching me, you will know that the quinacridone gold and the quinacridone deep gold tend to kind of push the other colors away. So that gives me another dimension to my paintings. Learn what a couple of strokes can do for creating some texture. Blend the colors on the page. Have some fun. I find it a bit of a dilemma, especially for folks starting out, because 100% cotton paper can be a little costly. But if you're not using the 100% cotton paper, you're not going to get the results. And so that, as I said, is quite a dilemma. If you're using student grade paints and student grade paper, your results will not be the same as if you were able to, treat yourself, find a way to get a pad of or a block of the Bauhong Masters paper. You can order it online. Some of it's quite affordable. Bauhong does have Artist's Watercolor, and then they also have another one that looks quite similar, but it's called Academy. So that's more affordable. Get some of that. It's 100% cotton. It's got a nice rough texture. If you're painting loose and intuitive, the rough texture is only going to add to your painting. A smoother texture is probably more for detailed if you're painting animals and portraits and that kind of thing. So get yourself set up. You don't have to start, like I said, with 85 colors. Invest in and some small tubes, perhaps, of Daniel Smith. They have 5 milliliter and 15 milliliter tubes. Try some of those. See what, get yourself a dark blue and a lovely green and maybe a gold and maybe a purple. And that's pretty much all you'd need. Or if not a purple, you could get a rose and mix that with your blue. Go to the websites of some of the manufacturers. They will tell you if their paints are staining, if they're granulating, all of those things. I would stay away, first of all, from anything that's very staining. Just as you're getting started, it gives you better options for mixing and creating clear and lovely paintings, and paintings that will have, you know, this kind of diffusion in the background. If you can see here where the Mayan dark blue has sort of faded out to a gray. But this all comes with experience. The more you paint, the more you relax into it. Feel what that amount of water feels like on your brush. If you're using, you know, if you're using the same brush, get used to that. Feel what that load of paint feels like on those bristles. Feel what the amount of water mixed with the pigment feels like on in your hand, in your brush. It's minuscule, but as you paint and as you progress, you become the manager of your team. You're building this relationship. All of these pieces are coming together to work for you. And the more you understand what that feels like, because painting is more than just a visual for me. It's an emotional. It's a sensual kind of experience where there is just more than just the visual coming into play. And there's even some paints, I think I painted with those in the fall. Rockwell has some that are floral based, and they actually have a scent to them, which is interesting. Yeah, I just really encourage you to take your time. This is such a beautiful, beautiful medium, and I think you'd be very, very pleased and very amazed at what they will do with you and for you. I'd like to thank the Process Art Discovery audience for joining me today. I shared with you a little bit about my love for the beautiful medium of watercolor, and how maybe you can start to experience that too by taking your time and learning how your paints will work with you. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to the channel or visit the members area.